welcome to the INEOS Grenadier owner chat. Now, the way this will work is that we have two owners here, Marcel and Venda and Dean, both of whom are Australians who have received their Grenadiers, and that's why we want to talk to them tonight. And I've also been lucky enough to drive Marcel's off-road. As a result of that, there's going to be two videos because I couldn't fit it all into one. One is going to be focusing on off-road performance. The other one's going to be looking at it as a touring vehicle. And I may make a third one if I've got more to say that doesn't fit into those, and also potentially cover the quartermaster. So to start off with the introductions then, Marcel and Bender, could you just outline your four-wheel drive experience and what made you choose a Grenadier?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Well, my passion and drive for four-wheel driving started back in 1989 when I bought my first serious four-wheel drive. Joined the Nissan four-wheel drive club in those days and was taught the proper way from then on. Since then, I've owned many four-wheel drives, tend to sort of hang on to them for a few years and then move them on. Everything from Nissans, Toyotas, etc. Currently, I'm a member of the Werribee four-wheel drive club. I'm one of the qualified four-wheel drive driver trainers within that club, and always look forward to taking newbies out. Reminds me back in the early days when I first started, and it also tends to keep me on my toes as far as finding out what's happening out in the four-wheel drive scene, all the differences between the four-wheel drives then and now, and emerging electronics and all that sort of thing. And for the first time in all those years, I got really excited about a vehicle. And I've never really been excited about purchasing a vehicle. And 2 years ago, when I first started on this journey of purchasing a Grenadier, I actually got really excited about a new vehicle and its simplicity. It's lots of things, and I'm sure we're going to talk about all those things a little bit later. But being part of the process of purchasing the Grenadier has been really exciting. And I've never been going to a car showroom to pick up my new car and actually be really excited. So that's probably the main thing that I'd like to say at this stage. So talk about the technical aspects.
Thank you. And Dean, what's your background with four-wheel drives and cars?
Look, I didn't even know four-wheel driving was a thing. I grew up on the corner in Africa, on the corner of Zaire, Zambia, and Malawi. Zaire, Zambia, and Angola. We didn't have bitumen and sealed roads, and it was, a 2-day journey to go do 400 Ks, and it was all four-wheel driving, but we didn't view it as that. It was just how you got along. The landscape was littered with Toyotas, some Isuzus and Land Rovers back in the day. And then when I moved to Australia, I got appointed at a job in the Pilbara. And again, that was pretty much the only recreation up there was four-wheel driving. That was the first time I actually understood four-wheel driving as a actual recreational thing. We used to go out for weekends, and people used to do, follow the leader and try and get everybody bogged behind it. And then you go at the end of the line and stuff. And then I moved to Papua New Guinea, and it was a bit like Africa. To get anywhere other than the main drag that goes up the Highlands Highway, it was all, pretty dirty, bad roads, and you just feel at home on them, I guess, if you've grown up on them and you kind of do know techniques and strategies, and you know how to roll up a rocky incline, you know how to kind of navigate types of terrain. But I've never really understood the mindset of recreational four-wheel driving. I wouldn't go anywhere I didn't need to go. You know what I mean? I go to destination if I have to go the hard way and the only way. That's what you have to do. And then since I've been back in Australia, all my four-wheel driving has pretty much been holiday overlanding stuff. You know, Gibb River Road, I think 3 or 4 times now, and Great Central Roads, and just the long, you know, hard, brutal, corrugated, dusty kind of stuff. And I've done that with a mixture of cars, predominantly Pajeros in my early life, and then Land Cruiser and Porsche Cayenne diesel Turbo S, and now the INEOS. I've always wanted a Land Rover, always. I wanted a Range Rover, I've wanted one, and I've just never been brave enough to buy one.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you for that introduction. Now, Marcel and Venda, what did you cross-shop the Grenadier against when you're looking for a new vehicle? What did you consider instead of it or against it?
Well, I actually didn't cross it against anything else. We had just offloaded a Jeep Wrangler, which was the last of the series four-wheel drives we had. We currently run about 5 vehicles within our business, and they're all full drive cars, but none that we would consider as serious four-wheel drives. So we've had a JK and then a JL Wrangler in the last so many years. And when the Grenadier came around, there was nothing else that we were considering. I certainly wouldn't be considering anything else at this moment in time, and there's nothing else that even remotely takes my fancy at the moment.
Okay, interesting. Dean, did you consider any other vehicles when you were purchasing your Grenadier?
Yeah, I was due to change my Cayenne out, and I couldn't find anything to replace it with. Again, like I said, I was looking at the Range Rover for a little bit, but then you have to be brave to own one of those guys. And then I started following the journey pretty early because I've always been in love with the Defender shape, and I thought that was the best car in the world because of the way it looked. And as soon as the INEOS came along, I'm going, right, that looks like it could be a reliable version of the Defender and a comfortable one too. I'm getting that. So I haven't sold any of my other cars. It's just like added to my fleet.
Okay. All right. So
I've got a 100 series Land Cruiser as well, the Sahara, the last of the, that's been my overlanding car for the last 15 years.
The Land Cruiser?
Yeah, the 100 series.
Okay, the 100 series, right. So, Marcel and Venda, in your experience with your Grenadier so far, what have you done with it? And what are your top 3 favourite things about it?
Well, top favourite things about it, I think it's its simplicity, for starters. That's a major thing. I'm not really a fan of all the electronic gadgetry that seems to be happening amongst all the four-wheel drives at the moment. They're becoming more and more technical. So I would dare say its simplicity would be the number one thing. And
its style as well. It's very stylish.
Okay. So that's 2, simplicity and style.
Yes.
And functionality. It's fit for purpose, exactly what it says.
Okay. Anything else to add to that on the positives front?
Oh, there are lots of positives.
Yeah.
The fact that we can order from the factory with all those things that we automatically add to four-wheel drives here anyway, such as bull bars, roof racks, or the snorkel and winch. All those things come automatically. The moment you purchase something, very first week it goes in to get all these mods done, that we can order it directly from the factory, and then also know that the spring loading and all that is going to be matched to the vehicle that you choose. is a big one. So it's not the cheapest of winches, absolutely not. But knowing that it's all part of the vehicle, you get your vehicle warranties on all that. They're all plus points.
And it's probably less hassle, isn't it? Because you've just got one set of options to tick on the configurator. You don't need to go and see 15 different specialists and then have them argue with each other. So are you saying you're a bit over the sort of aftermarket experience of integrating a vehicle and building it?
Oh no, I don't get me wrong. I love the aftermarket thing. I love pimping up the car to a point where we like it to our standards and the bits and pieces that we want on it. But to be able to do that from a factory level is a major plus point, because let's face it, we've all put in bull bars and all the extras and then found ourselves, well, in order to make the car work the way it should, we now need to do suspension changes, etc. We don't need to do any of that now. It's basically ready to go.
Yes.
All we need to do is put our gear in it, put the caravan behind, and on our way.
Yep. Dean, what are your favourite things about the Grenadier so far, and what have you done with it?
It tows like a steam train. That's the first thing, and it tracks just beautifully. So I think the original part of that question was, what have you used it for? For the first 2,500 Ks, I just sort of did a bit of town stuff while I was getting it kind of prepared for my first trip. And I've got a place down south, and it's a rural property, and it's got a lot of fire track and limestone rutted stuff down at the beach. So I played with it on that, and it's pretty challenging. I normally use my ATV to go down to the beach there because it's so brutal on cars. That was the first 2,500 Ks, and then I'm on 13,000 Ks now, and all of that's been done essentially on a mix of long stretch bitumen and gravel, towing. The last, since 2,500 Ks I've been towing, and I just can't speak highly enough of how confidence building and inspiring towing that behind that is. It's just one of those cars where the car is boss. The trailer does not dictate. It's the rear line or the shuffle of the back end. It doesn't ever do that. It doesn't push it. You don't have that sense of it being urging it forward or pulling it back or anything. It just responds to the throttle and the brake as if it's not there. It's incredible like that. That's the thing that I've found I've loved most about it. It doesn't fight camber at all on a long straight road. It just sits. The steering wheel is boss. You put it there and it stays there. Whereas on other cars, we're constantly leaning against the camber on the steering wheel and all that sort of stuff. It drives me bonkers. And you get really fatigued doing that actually over a long 12-hour drive. Whereas this, I just, I did Perth to Darwin in 4 days, and I felt fresh as a daisy at the end of every day. It was amazing. So I love that about the car. I concur with what Marcel said about this being ready to go. It pretty much is ready to go. The towing stuff needs to be resolved in Australia, the 13-pin plug and all that sort of jazz. That was a little bit of a scary thing, changing it from 13 to 7. And what else do I like about it? It's super comfortable. It really is super comfortable. I've been asked hundreds of times, online about the comfort of the driver's seat and that, famous foot thing, and I go, I don't even know it's there. I get myself comfortable in 1,000 different ways. I'm constantly fidgeting and shifting, and you have to keep moving when you're driving, and my foot doesn't stay in one spot and need to be on that spot that thing happens to be. It's like, what? But I love it. Yeah, it's tall, it's big, it's good to pack up,
Okay, so you're loving the towability of it, and you're loving the drivability of it, and sounds like also the robustness as well. Anything else that you want to add to that list?
Yeah, look, I think the one of my biggest learnings the last few days. So I came back across the Gibson Desert and arrived back on Saturday, and I did quite a bit of damage actually. the stones that bounced off my camper or onto my camper and back onto the back of my car. It was probably induced by overspeed. I was going too fast, but it did not feel fast. And that's actually potentially a problem. You do feel like you can probably go faster than it is sensible. It's so robust. Mechanically, it just soaks up those corrugations like they're not even there. You buzz around at 80, 90, 100, and it just seems to just get better and better, worryingly.
So yours is a diesel, I take it, Dean?
Yeah, mine's a diesel TriMaster.
Yeah.
And I've got the winch and the heavier suspension at the front.
Right, and that's exactly the same as Marcel and Vendors, also the diesel station wagon as well.
There's no turbo lag at all, nothing.
Well, there shouldn't be on a modern diesel, particularly not one from BMW, but yeah.
No.
Okay, let's switch over to the negatives then. So Marcel and Vendor, what are the things you've found about the car so far which you don't like or you feel should be improved?
Okay, well, let's start with what I feel should have been included. This vehicle is going to, especially here in Australia, going to be towing. Most people that buy this will end up towing either a caravan or a camper or a hyper camper or anything of that sort. So, and the car's really built for that. And with everything else pre-wired, having all the lights being pre-wired to the roof and all those options available, it is, to my feeling, disappointing that we now have to go to the aftermarket to put in a brake controller. Right, that would have been a really nice touch to add. So that's a big negative, I think, and that would have been really good to get on there. The other thing that we only just recently found out is wanting to drive away off a night time. I found it almost impossible to find the hole for the key. There was no lighting over the key socket to start the car. So that would have been something very simple, and it's one of the things on the top of my list to just wire in, and it won't be very difficult to do. But again, it's one of those little design oversights that would have been, should have been picked up at a very early stage in the design of a new vehicle, I feel.
Yep.
The other thing, and as you've noted yourself, Robert, when driving the car in four-wheel drive, doing some of the more extreme off-road testing that we did, is the very slow diff release. That was notably slow. Whether that is just something that's because it's a very new vehicle, that all that down there is a little bit stiff and not liking to release quickly, and whether that improves over time, we'll find out. But that's another one of those things that I'm sure with modern technology they could have done better on those.
Yeah.
And I suppose the only other thing is that the car's been, when we came to pick it up on day one, we were already warned that there are software issues. They needed to keep the car an extra day at the dealership because it wasn't learning that it was a right-hand drive. It was still believing it was a left-hand drive, so they needed extra time for that, and it's all fine. And they had issues with trying to get the software update. I
don't want to talk too much about the software update. So INEOS have taken the decision to release the car needing a software update, but because that's a temporary thing, I don't feel it's going to be relevant to long-term ownership. So I don't want to dwell too much on that.
I'm sure that will be fixed up.
Yeah.
For me, it's the reverse camera could have been a bit
more
user-friendly.
Yeah. The
quite small, isn't it?
It, besides being small, it is giving you a distorted view. and also being off-center. In modern days, you want your camera right over the tow ball. So when you're going to reverse to connect your trailer, no, that should be simple. And that would have been a very easy fix at manufacture stage to put that in the correct position. It's off-center, and I don't know why they did that. Obviously, they must have good reasons for it, but you would think that with correct engineering, that would have been fixed.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say car manufacturers always have good reasons for those sort of things in my experience, having talked to the engineers, but okay. Now, on the point of the brake controller, Ford have integrated the brake controller into the new generation Everest and Ranger. And for those interested, I've got a video on explaining how and why they've done that, because that actually massively helps in combating trailer sway. And it's something I'd like to see every other car maker in Australia do, not just for the convenience, but because it's a significant safety advantage, which I could think sway people into buying Everest or Ranger over a competitor. Okay, any other negatives whilst we're on it before we switch over to Dean?
Well, the only thing I can say, but through the process of ordering, I had originally put into my order to have rock sliders on the vehicle. And when it was delivered, it turned out that within the contract stage, that part had been left off the actual list of things that the accessories that I had selected. Hindsight, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because if we had gone with the rock sliders, it would have been one hell of a trip trying to get in and out of the car. The original steps as they are, although they are more exposed and more likely to get damaged in heavy off-roading, I think anyone that has issues trying to get up a high step, and the vehicle is very high up, without that standard side step, it would have been very difficult to get in had we gone with, or had we received the original rock sliders as I thought I had ordered. So that's something that worked out probably better than I had could have hoped, but for those that have ordered rock sliders, it's going to get very difficult to get in and out.
Yeah, look, there has been some criticism of INEOS's configurator, this, that, and the other, and I understand that. However, I think we should also give INEOS some slack, because they are building literally everything from scratch here, completely, and a little few glitches here and there, I think, is entirely forgivable. I'd be much less forgiving if it was Toyota or Ford or someone like that who've been around for many, many decades. This is a brand new company here. So now, out of your negatives there, I'm not really seeing that many which are intrinsic to the vehicle. I mean, I agree with everything you said. Well, I mean, the electrics should be better Australian standard. Integrated brake controller would be nice, etc. But I'm not seeing anything sort of you're seeing as a kind of a major fundamental disadvantage or problem.
No, I think the car's brilliant. The driving position, and I've heard lots of commentary on the forums talking about not having your speedo directly in front of you. It didn't bother me at all. Just having it off to the left in the main viewing area, it's okay. And the driver position is so good. Seeing over the bonnet, especially when you're doing more extreme off-roading, to have that view is just brilliant.
Yeah, so, I got to agree with that. I loved the view over the bonnet. It reminded me of the Defender, but also the car, when I drove it, the car which came to mind the most, reminded me the most, was the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. It was just like that, but better. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Dean, let's switch over to you then. What are your points for improvement, your negatives about the vehicle thus far?
Yeah, quickly before I do that, the other one positive you asked, like from previously, yeah, one of the great things about that car is something that's probably less tangible, and that is what feels to be the support from the back end, from the brand INEOS and from our dealer. I don't know if that's the same for all dealers, but certainly in WA that seems to be the case with all of, and I speak probably for all of our owners that I've been talking to.
That was going to be my next question, but okay.
Okay, all right, sorry. So yeah, so I bundle that as part of the big
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
Look, I completely agree about the tow control stuff. That was a negative point for me, but it sounds like the red arc thing is now coming out. I agree about the key. I had that written down. It drives me mad. It's not even recessed, it's flat.
Yeah.
So in the dark, you can't even
Yeah.
it's like you've got to put your finger on it somewhere and work out where it is. Fortunately, I have muscle memory to kind of nail it 8 out of 10 times now. But the height you've already referenced, it's really tall and it's not easy to get in. I worry about the side bolster on my driver's seat, getting stuffed up in a short amount of time as I slide up and over it every time. But essentially its biggest shortcoming is the range and the lack of fuel capacity. I was getting on average between 15 and 17 litres per 100. I'm towing a 2-ton van or hypercamper, and over a lot of kind of kilometres, and I had to carry 40 litres of diesel extra, and I used it a lot. It doesn't have the high flow capacity at the Bowsers, so I ran into a few instances where I couldn't fill up at some roadhouses because the low flow Bowsers were down and they only had high flow truck Bowsers. That was kind of like a real pain point for me, and I felt, I saw Justin's reference to it on one of the Facebook threads about the reasoning they didn't do it. I totally get that, and I don't think it'd be a problem if some aftermarket mob came up with a way of actually creating another 40 litres in there. I think another 40 litres would be perfect.
Can you just expand that reasoning for us? Because I didn't say that.
He was quite specific about the design engineering and the amount of money it would have cost for lots of reasons. Sorry, I can't.
So to do what? To do high flow or to expand?
Yeah, to do high flow.
To do high flow, right? Yeah,
to do high flow. There was he did a significant explanation of it.
Okay, I'll look that up.
Yeah.
So basically, just to be clear, the vehicle can't take a high flow diesel nozzle.
It cannot. Right. Which is problematic if you're in the remote.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in a couple of instances, I had to fill my jerry cans and then use the jerry cans that decanted into.
What a pain. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So that's the biggest one. But I kind of have a sense of reassurance. I mean, it's not a game stopper, because if you have your jerry cans, you can always get fuel if there's fuel.
Yes, if you have your jerry cans. Right, not everyone's going to carry jerry cans, and this actually brings us on. Well, let's talk about long range tanks in a moment. What other negatives or improvements you got, Dean?
The other one is it is what it is, right? Because it comes with a whole bunch of benefits. It's like the fact that it's shaped. It doesn't give you great visibility behind, and you've already referenced the rear view camera. For my driving position, even on the right hand side mirror, I can't get it out far enough to see the blind spot at the arse end of my driver's side. And that's fully extended as much as it can go out. But, they're quite forgivable, and it probably references my bad habits. I don't really flick my head over my shoulder enough, probably like I should be doing, because all the gizmos and gadgetry in my current cars, the other suite I have, they tell me I've got cameras and I've got beepers and lights flashing and everything. So I've got to go back to kind of analog driving.
Dean, you're actually having to drive the car. My commiserations.
Yeah, you have to put input.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on the negative front?
Nothing really. No.
I
think you guys referenced all the little, tiny little pain points.
All right, great. So there's a couple of points I want to make about this. Now, the Grenadier doesn't appear to have room for a long-range tank. Now, all of the European engineers are going, why on earth would you need more fuel than the 8 litres, whatever is in it at the moment? Well, come out to Australia, we'll show you there's a reason there's a long-range tank in every single four-wheel drive I've owned, and I use it and then some. Now, there are at least 2 companies I'm aware of working to see if anything can be squeezed out of it, which will be good. It is also notable the Quartermaster Ute has its spare wheel in the tray, which is a major drawback in my view. And the reason it's got it in there is because it isn't underslung. So there's clearly not a lot of room underneath that. So I think range is going to be a bit of an issue if that long range tank thing can't be sorted for our purposes. The second thing you talked about, rear view mirror, I see what you're saying there, but to me personally, the interior mirror on a four-wheel drive is completely superfluous. Never use it because the back's always chocker with everything anyway. I drive a ute, it's got a service body. Personally, I know reviewers have said, oh, there's a spare wheel in the way. Yeah, the back's going to be full with stuff.
I don't mind that. It's the side view.
Oh, the side view.
My driver's side view.
Right.
A massive blind spot.
Oh, okay. Well, see, when I drove it, one thing I was struck by, which I really liked, was the fact that the wing mirrors are quite down low, whereas on my back, they're high up. They're high up, and I'm constantly getting my vision blocked by this giant A-pillar in the Ranger and its wing mirrors. Where with the Grenadier, they're lower down. It's like a bit like driving a truck. You can actually see out to the corners. So I like that. So let me just understand what you're saying then about the side view, Dean.
So in my driving, when my driving position where I'm most comfortable is quite a long way back.
Yep.
I sit quite tall.
Yep.
Even though my seat is well down. When I'm looking out my driver's side window, even with my mirror angled to show me as far out as I can, I still, more than half of my mirror is looking down the side of my car and not out onto the space behind me.
Okay, so I think this comes back onto, there's not a couple of points I want to make. The second thing is this footrest thing. So if you don't know, I think it's the exhaust which is routed close by the driver's footwell, and there's this massive sort of bulge where your left foot has to go. Now, opinion is split on this, where some people don't mind it, such as Dean, some people hate it, it's a deal breaker for them, right? As someone who is a car reviewer and has done a lot of driving and owned a Defender and owns the Lotus, neither of which are known for their adjustability, what I would say to everyone is you have to try it. You cannot rely on anyone else's opinion as to whether it's good or whether it's bad. Everybody has a different body shape, different torso length, everything else, different preferences. Me, personally, I don't like it. It's a real drawback for me. But it could be absolutely no problem for someone else, as it is for Dean. You have to try it for yourself and don't write the car off unless you have actually gone out there and tried it.
I would add to that and say you need to try it for a bit.
Yeah.
You know, sitting in, I've seen so many people make observations about that footrest, and they've literally sat on it for 30 seconds in a full drive show. You know, and I go, oh, man. It kills me that that's killing you.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to try it for a while, unfortunately. But it is not something you can take someone else's opinion on. In my videos, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, look, it is there. It may or may not cause you a problem. Only you can decide. You cannot take anyone else's opinion about it. So,
as a matter of fact, while we were doing the full drive testing, the extreme road testing, I found that footrest, or whatever you want to call it, extremely comforting and comfortable, and could get a really solid base there under my foot as I was going up and down some of the steeper terrain. And for the actual drives, I found it extremely comfortable. To me, it wasn't an issue. But I can understand why for some people who don't like that particular driving position, it could be an issue. So as you said, I think you definitely need to try it rather than to judge it without.
Yeah, absolutely. Dean, have you found the well, let's actually talk about it now. So you briefly mentioned that the support and sales experience has been good. Could you expand on that a little bit, please? What do you mean by good? Do they understand the vehicle? Are they responsive? What does good mean in that context?
Good means that I'm getting a very transparent and honest response every single time I talk to them. To me, that matters a lot. If they don't know, they don't say they know. They say they'll find out. I mean, they are fully aware and they acknowledge the fact that their service network is not really fully rolled out. And they are rapidly scaling up, which means that the IP or that exists within the Australian group is quite low. And they acknowledge that. And I'll give you for example, I realized I needed to check my fluids when I got to Darwin. I'd done about 7,000 Ks by that stage, and I hadn't really lifted the bonnet and checked anything. And there was quite a lot of conversation with INEOS Australia, the tech team, about the types of fluids I would need to use to top up if I needed to. And there was this kind of like banter between INEOS Technical, me, and then the Darwin dealer, as we were trying to work out how to match up the oils and the different 0W30s and stuff like that, and where we could get it from and stuff like that. And at no point did I feel that they would just leave me hanging. It was like they were going to resolve every single question, and they were almost proactive in that. I would get screenshots of different things, try that, do whatever. And when you're kind of doing the trips like a trip that I was doing, you kind of know that if you can get somebody on, if I have a mobile number, which I did, I could kind of ask the question and there would be some, stuff in the back end. It's not like that with other brands.
I couldn't agree more. That is really heartening to see. And a while back, I interviewed Justin at interviews up on my YouTube channel, and he did talk about that. And I was waiting to see if that's going to actually eventuate, and it sounds like it has. So that's fantastic. Marcel and Venda, what has your experience been of the sales and then after and support process, etc. thus far?
Similar.
Well, it's very similar sort of process. We've had, there's been a whole lot of teething issues as far as clear communication, when's the vehicle coming, what's happening. But the dealership has been onto it, and we've been going through the guys in Ballarat, and they've been fantastic all the way through. And every time any type of changes or information became available, they were straight away on the phone to me and let me know, oh, look, it looks like this is happening or that's happening, and the car has landed, but we're waiting for it. It hasn't been assigned to a transporter yet to come from Port Kembla to Melbourne. But as soon as it does, and as soon as it's assigned, we'll let you know. So that process has been really good as far as information from the dealership. I've also had issues with the invoicing originally, and again, as you said earlier, I think if you send any email or text message to the CEO of Toyota, for instance, or Nissan, I doubt you'll ever get an answer to it. And in this case, Justin's been fantastic, straight away passing it on to the right person, saying, here we go, and here's your answer. So I suppose that's the beauty with what is, I suppose, a small company at this stage against big conglomerates, that you are still important to them. And that's how I feel. I still feel important to them. And you don't get that feeling with any other company at this stage. No,
you definitely don't. And I have to say, the INEOS Grenadier owners Facebook group, Justin, the boss, actually is active there, which blew me away completely when I saw that. I've never seen any other car company rep of any level of seniority be active on any group like that ever. So to me, that was a portent of things to come. And I personally, I think it's paying off. I think that was a good move, and everything else is positive as well. Yeah.
It's
I
interesting
think
you
all
mention.
those. Oh, sorry. I think all those involved in the process and at INEOS, I think they're all four-wheel drive enthusiasts as well, and they're all automotive enthusiasts. They're passionate people, and this was already apparent in the early stage when they were rolling out the PT show, bringing out the demo vehicles and the early versions. The passion was there already with those people, and that passion just really flows on to the excitement of the whole process.
Linda, do you want to mention something?
Yeah, I was just in terms of like a practical example of what I'm referring to here is that prior to leaving, I was chasing some parts, right? And it's interesting you mentioned Ballarat, and the Perth inventory hadn't arrived. Not Perth's fault, just how the inventory of spare parts hadn't arrived. I just needed to fix fuel filters and air filters, and it was very interesting because at the 11th hour, Neil from INEOS was able to grab the contact of the person in Ballarat actually who had received their spare part stuff, and they were just instantaneously packaged up that parts set for one of my couriers to overnight pick up and fly out to Perth. I mean, it's like they were very interested and motivated in making sure I had my bits.
Yeah, that is fantastic to hear. And the other point I want to make generally is that for those people considering the INEOS or taking on for a test drive, is that it's a very different vehicle to a Japanese four-wheel drive. Now, I say this because you can jump from any Nissan to a Toyota and back again, or Isuzu, things like that, and you're kind of going to be at home. Right, you get into an INEOS, and it's like getting into, as I said, the Mercedes G-Wagon or an older Defender. It is different. It feels different, and it's different to drive. You've got an actual transfer case lever with 4 positions. Please don't be driving it off road with the centre diff unlocked unless you particularly know what you're doing and you've got a specific reason to. For example, stuff like that. So it is actually more of a hiking boot of a vehicle than an all-purpose runner, and it's got to be judged on those merits. And your Japanese experience won't necessarily immediately translate across to the vehicle for anyone considering buying one. But once you've learned it and given it a chance, I think you'll see the value.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, now questions from people. So we've got Lauren Raff says the footrest is actually a built-up plastic part. So if you pull it off, and I was considering pulling it off, but I decided not to because it's not my car. Underneath the actual body the hump is a fraction of the size. So there could be an aftermarket mod to make it smaller. That would get rid of a lot of the problem because most cars do have a footrest there. It's not just as giant as the one there. Okay, what else have we got? So on the subject of the fuel filler, well, this is a good dose of commercial reality from Justin, because it's sort of just explaining how with any car, even a small change is just like blowing out of cost. It's just orders of magnitude more complicated than it seems, just to make that a little bit earlier. However, that doesn't take away from the fact it's a pain in the arse, and for going into rural areas out back, I would not be happy having to fill up a jerry can and then put that in, particularly if I couldn't get a long range tank. And Deej, who has a petrol car, says the petrol engine is a real performer. Economy is better than his modified cruiser, which is good. And he's pretty happy with his two-seat, even commercial as well. Okay, so we're about to close up then. So Bender and Marcel, what would you say to potential INEOS owners, people thinking about buying a vehicle and going, oh, yeah, I want to do four-wheel drive touring, towing, etc. What would you say to them, pros and cons of the vehicle and the advice you'd give them?
It's innovative and inspiring. And if you go there with your eyes open wide, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would definitely say now that vehicles are going to be available in the near future for test driving. try it. No, and don't expect it, as you said earlier, to be another Japanese car. Do not compare it to a Toyota Land Cruiser, or do not compare it to, it is a standalone vehicle, and the only thing that would be close to it would be either a G-Wagon or an older Defender. The G-Wagon is just simply out of my league as far as financially, and therefore I've never even considered a G-Wagon. But if you're looking to do full driving, touring, towing, it is a definite vehicle that you should try and just take it for a test drive. And then make up your own mind. I won't be telling anyone you must have one or you shouldn't have one. That's up to each individual and the way they feel about their vehicle. But to us, it's fit for purpose.
Yeah, that's good. And by the way, having tested the G-Wagon and also driven it again, for full driving touring, the Grenadier is the better vehicle. Just I won't go into the reasons why, but to me, there's just not even close. Dean, what advice would you give to people saying, look, I'm thinking about the vehicle, like full driving, touring, towing, I've come back to Japanese cars. What advice would you give them?
Look, I would say to them to think very, very carefully about how amplified some of the negatives have become on the internet, and not to allow that, the volume of which some of those things are spoken, to put them off too much. I think that has been my biggest concern for the brand, actually, is the hyper-focus and the bothness of specific conversations about a specific small thing, like we've mentioned, the footwell, the warning lights and stuff like that. The car is much bigger than that. It's got so much more than those little things. I mean, you could just continue to name all the great things, how easy it is to stack, how comfortable it is in the back, how comfortable it is in the front, how ethereal the driving experience is. It corners flat. That's amazing for a car like that. And don't discount the power or the value of the support that's going to be coming with this thing. They can't risk this loss. They've invested billions into this thing. They cannot take a hit. They're going to back this brand, and they're not going to be resting on any laurels, because they haven't got any. Unlike Toyota, I mean, seriously, I don't take my car to a Toyota dealer anymore to get it resolved. No way. Every single time it's come back with a check engine light on, or some random light that didn't have when it went in. So yeah, that's what I would say. I'd go, really test the reasons why you wouldn't buy one.
Well, cost would be probably up there for most people. That would probably be the first one, but that aside.
Oh, yeah, you're dead right. But if you're comparing like for like, right?
Yeah. Marcel and Brenda, Dean, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to share your experiences with us. Very much appreciated by me and all of the potential people looking at purchasing the vehicle.